Okay, happy July 4th weekend, everybody. Today is Saturday, July 4th, and I am going to show you how to miter, and we're going to roughly make this today. We're at least going to get the mitering done, which is the trickier part. And later on, I hope to have some epoxy come in, and we will glue up that actual joint. Some things to note: we're going to do a 2-inch drop leg. We're going to do approximately 11 5/8. It's actually going to be a little heavier than that on 3/4 inch porcelain. Now, why would you want to do this? Well, let's say you have a customer change their mind, or you're on a job and you've only got a couple of them that you would want to do, or you order a bunch and some of them show up and they're damaged, and you have to decide whether you want to try to make them yourself or file a claim and have new ones made up, which will take a fair amount of time to have done. So it may be more advantageous to just go ahead and learn how to do them yourself. Now, one thing that I've learned from woodworking and other assorted crafts is that if you try to take two pieces and miter them perfectly at 45 degrees, it can cause, especially when they're linear products like a piece of porcelain that's 2 feet long or a wood slab or something like that, if you try to take them and miter them perfectly at 45 degrees, they will never work. Likely more often than not, what you're going to end up with is a joint that doesn't want to go together. So what we're actually going to do is we're going to make these 46 degrees, and I will show you how we're going to do that in a little bit. So we'll have 46 degrees, and that should give us a little more room here in the heel, the inside heel of the cut, leaving this just a little bit tighter, but plenty of room for glue, which is also another reason why you want to leave it a little more open so that you do have room for glue. Here's another illustration exactly of what we're talking about. You got a 24-24 tile. We're going to miter a 46 degree, and we need to come in. We're going to set our fence 4 3/4 inches away from this edge. And what that's going to do, if you can see right there, is it's going to bring us down the edge just a little bit, and I'll show you on a real piece of tile. It's going to look more like this, where there's just a little bit of the drop, and that will end up being filled up with glue once we're all done. But that little bit of a drop leaves us a little bit for aesthetics and alignment. All right. Okay, so we're getting set up. And again, what I want to do is I want my miter to be out here, just down from the eased edge of the tile, just below it, enough. You could come down a little more if you want, but ideally get it as close as you can, but come down so that there is a little bit of vertical right there when you get through your cut. Now here, because I wanted to go to 46 degrees, my saw is only going to go to 45, and what I've done is put 3 layers of tape down, and essentially what that does is it's going to raise this side of the blade up, or the sole plate up, making this cut closer to 46 degrees. It's a really easy way to do it. If you've got thicker tape like G-tape, you might be able to get by with 1 or 2 layers. I've got 3 layers of this heavier masking tape, and yeah, I'm going to change this over, set the miter, and we can get on with the actual cutting. Okay, so the actual dimension from here to here is 4 7/8 on this tile, and that should get me right where I want to be, where I'm just have the slightest little bit of vertical reveal when I get through this cut. Notice it's already chipped up a little bit, so that's okay. That's what these are for. They're scraps. They're to learn on. Let's see if I can get this out and show you what that looks like. See how I've got just the slightest bit of reveal. Any of this in here, I'll clean that up with a pad. But I could not ask for any more perfect of a cut. Okay, time for the next cut. Well, some porcelain is harder to cut than others, especially this real white colored porcelain like this piece of limestone. Nonetheless, it's still an absolutely perfect cut, exactly what I wanted, just the right amount of reveal. And that number again was 4 7/8 from this outside edge to here. Of course, check it on the pieces, especially if you're using a different brand than what I'm using. Their micro bevel might be a little bit at a different place, but with what I'm using, that came out perfectly. So now the next to last thing is we go ahead and rip this piece in half. So I will square up the saw, move the fence over, and we'll go from there. And double check this. Perfect. All right, here we go. tape is binding me up, so it has to go away. If this was G-tape, I wouldn't have that problem. So that came out perfect. So now I've got two equal halves. Let's measure them and make sure. Call it 3/4. Yeah, I mean that worked out perfectly. Yeah, absolutely perfect. Two equal halves and miters. So that's the part that's the most interesting. So I'll go ahead and we'll set this up and see how they look in the light. I've got a little bit of light coming from this direction, so we'll set it up and see if we can see how this looks. Okay, I'm using a couple clamps just down at the bottom to kind of hold it in position, but I don't know if you can see that, but that gap is absolutely perfect from top to bottom. Here, I'll try to zoom in. I'm holding this and operating the camera at the same time. Dead on. Okay, here's the inside. You can see it's a little opened up, but the lines of everything come together perfectly. There's plenty of room in there for adhesive or grout if you space it out a little bit more, but that is dead on. All right, guys, that's it for today. It's got to be knocking at 100 degrees. It is so hot outside. But that ends the first part of this. So we've got the miters done. Now once I get the epoxy in, we'll go ahead and do a clamp up, glue up, and finish it out. But it did come out perfect. Admittedly, I did it yesterday as well on another piece of tile. I didn't like what I talked about in it. I had some of my numbers were off, and it came out perfect as well. I mean, I'll show you pictures of it too. But I did have some errant cuts in it and wanted to do it and do it right with a pretty piece. So very good. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Happy 4th of July.
And I'm proud to be an American.